A very good afternoon and welcome to this episode of the Youth Roundtable here on Civic Space TV. My name is Philip Mlisa, and on today's episode we are discussing a very important aspect of our civil and electoral governance. Many at times the conversation is that electoral processes not just in Uganda but across the continent are determined on personalities, are determined on emotions rather than issues and reasons as to why people should align to particular parties or individuals who are going to lead them in the next cycle, depending on what the laws of that country say. And here on this panel gathers to talk to you about the issues that could actually shape Uganda's election come 2026, and certainly looking at what they are, what the interpretation from the people in power is, but also most importantly the voters on the ground, what they understand these issues to be, but also how well they can be delivered to those that have not understood them, so that when they make that decision come January 2026, it is the right decision of people that are going to push this nation to the next level. My name is Philip Mulisa once again, and I will take the privilege of inviting my panel to say hello to you before we get into the depth of the conversation. I'll start from my extreme left. Lady, welcome.
Thank you so much. My name is Adiro Catherine Okot. I'm the legal representative of the Forum for Democratic Change. I'm a law student at Cavendish University, Uganda. I'm pleased to be here to discuss matters of national importance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adiro, for joining us, and of course, greetings to the fraternity of Cavendish University, but also the Forum for Democratic Change, and certainly we're interested in learning what you have to share with us from those two constituencies you come from. Thank you. And next to Adiro.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Apili Cynthia Esther, a student at Makerere University pursuing a Bachelor's of Arts in Social Sciences. I am a researcher into peace and conflicts and largely a social justice advocate. Thank you very much, Philip.
Thank you so much, Apili Cynthia Esther, for joining us from Makerere University, but also from the other aspect of peace and conflict and also the social sciences. These are, excuse me, all very important aspects of our society, and certainly we can't wait to hear what you have to share with us on this conversation. Thank you. And next to Cynthia is the only gentleman on the panel. Gentleman, karibu.
Good afternoon, viewers. I'm glad to be part of this panel today. I'm Katoto Msime. I'm a human rights lawyer, I'm an environmentalist, I'm a political rights lawyer, and I'm glad to be part of this panel today.
Thank you so much, Council Katoto Musime, human rights, environmentalist, political rights. Everything we're going to discuss here is actually in that one person represented. So thank you so much for joining us, and certainly as we engage with you and the rest of the panel, we look forward to learning but also unpacking some of these issues from their complexity to the best way how our people can understand them. Thank you. And last but not least, just next to me, lady.
Thank you very much, Phil. My name is Joan Bionaneve, and I'm a computer science student at the International University of East Africa. I am also a founder of Avara Hospitality Solutions. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Joan Bionaneve, for joining us from Cavendish University and beg your pardon, International University of East Africa. Thank you so much for joining us, and Avara Hospitality Solutions. Thank you so much, and certainly we will enjoy listening from the minds of an international student based in Kampala, Uganda. And colleagues, the election is underway, and many things have taken shape in the electoral cycle. We started way back in around May and April, when the Electoral Commission was rolling out voter register updates. Then we went into nominations at party level, we went into the primaries, we went into now the national nominations at the different levels in the local councils, we went to the presidency, members of parliament, and here we are the campaign season is underway and the election is just around the corner. 15th of January, we're going to be voting in the next president and members of parliament. But one of the things that come up in elections, especially in this part of the world, the global south, is the fact that people tend not to vote based on a particular reason of this candidate is able to deliver on these issues that are of interest to me, but they tend to vote on, I know him, he's from my village, I know this person, we went to the same school, perhaps he's from my tribe. And these are things that oftentimes should not be the reason why any progressive country is choosing the next leader, because in the end, we end up losing out on people that are able to deliver on the services the nation needs, and we get people to whom people are just interested in looking at faces and jumping around the campaign trail and going forward the leadership. I want to understand from you, and Cynthia, I will start with you. You are a student at Makerere University, and I want you to give me the perspective of students. When the electoral season is underway and you hear conversation from your colleagues around elections, around the candidates, around the political parties, we know all the contestants have put out manifestos. We have a political party that is telling us they are protecting gains. We have another that is promoting a new Uganda. We have another that is promoting an advanced economy. The Forum for Democratic Change, they are telling us they want to put money in the people's pockets. And the Common Man's Party, we have the Alliance for National Transformation, very many of them. What is the mind of students in institutions of higher learning as regards the electoral season, as regards the candidates we have, especially for presidency, and do they even seem to understand what is going on in the country?
I think the best thing that students understand currently when it comes to the electoral process is this is a time for the education calendar to be delayed, because ideally you're not going to want to be caught in the crossfires between voters and police, between politicians and police in the vast majority of instances. But also, the elections come at a very unique time, because I think shortly after the national elections, we shall be running the Guild presidential elections at Makerere University. And the conversations you'll hear is in terms of how the national election will greatly influence the Guild presidential elections. But also, I think the most fascinating aspect is seeing the current Guild president of Makerere University also running for a political post. I think he's running for the National Youth MP for Central Region. And if you hear the nature of conversations, is one grading, of course, how his leadership has been at Makerere as it comes to the climax of it, and versus his capacity to contribute on a national level then. And I think the biggest aspect now as young people within university spaces is not necessarily about interpreting the processes of elections and trying to figure out how we are able to participate in order to have one, a free and fair election, but two, just to be involved in the electoral process so that we also have a legitimate ground to hold people accountable. The biggest thing is, how do you survive within this electoral process and how do you benefit from it? People will be running on campaign trails, not necessarily because they believe in the ideology, not because they know the ideology, but because they know they can gain from the ideology. Just gain a financial benefit and walk away from it like it never existed. And that is the biggest problem, because a lot of us have lost trust in the electoral processes. We've lost trust in the system in itself. But secondly, we don't believe that the system exists to work for us in terms of structural amendments, but also in terms of delivering what is necessary for us as a country to propel forward. And that's the biggest challenge that you have, that has created a lot of voter apathy when it comes to young people. The conversation is about, oh, the Electoral Commission has advertised for polling agents. Can I just go and be a polling agent? How much are they paying? paying? How can I walk away from this without having any injury? And I believe that's a very big challenge, because considering the youth bulge within the country and also considering how many young people are now participating in this election, I think it becomes a significant time for us to care about the electoral processes, for us to care about the manifestos that these politicians are putting out there. It's a significant opportunity for us to not just participate, but to create an agenda that defines us as young people in the long term and not just in the short term. Because in as much as we think it's going to happen and end here, it's not going to end here, because the electoral process defines what the next 5 years are going to be. And in the next 5 years, probably if you're a year one student, you're going to be a graduate by then. In the next 5 years, if you are graduating in January, for instance, you're now going to enter the workforce. So those structures are largely important to define what your future looks like henceforth. And that sustainability for structures is largely important, because if you also now get an opportunity to be within the structures, are you going to change them or allow them to be as they are because we benefit from them?
All right, thank you so much. And it's good you give us a glimpse into the mind of a university student out there who is fairly involved in the electoral activity. And Joan, many at times students are accused of being very active in things that are not national. They will tell you students are only interested in if there are football fans watching their football team play. They will tell you if the ladies are in beauty pageants. They will tell you they're on TikTok scrolling videos and making challenges, and they seem not to be interested in matters that shape the education they are in, that is the politics. And I want to understand, first of all, from your point of view, what informs the lack of interest from students at higher levels of learning, universities, institutions, from being very active? You had, she says, some are actually interested, but there is a mass out there that is not party to any of them. You ask them, do you even have a national identity card? And they tell you, no, I don't think I need that one. What informs that?
Okay, so when you look at our Ugandan population, around 78% are youth. And the Uganda Bill of Statistics says 13% of the youth, that is 18 to 30, are unemployed. But apparently, when we look at the 13%, we are just looking at the youth that are unemployed. So the statistics also come and say, we looked at the Aga Khan University making research, and they released information saying 75% of the youth are unemployed and underemployed. So apparently the biggest percentage is unemployed. You find certain Ugandan just working for rent and food. So apparently you've been living in the country for the past 20 to 25 years. There has been no change. Some of us have been born in villages where we do not even change the LOC. You were born when your LC one was a certain person, and up to now, it's the same person. So we tend to lose interest because of what we see happening, and we are not seeing change. We are not seeing transition. Even that transition we are trying to fight for is coming in a complicated way.
So Joan, and I want to really pick you well on this one. So, for example, the NRM government, specifically the person of President Museveni, has been in power since 1986. Some people argue even a little beyond that, people that count the times he was when the time the military was in charge of the country and he was the deputy military head. And I want to imagine you are saying that because you see the same things happening from the 80s to the 90s to 2000 and now 2025, that informs a conscience in you as a student that my participation actually may not even matter. So why do I even go in there? Let me just go for my sports. Let me go for my, whether it is a musical concert as opposed to a political rally, to listen to what this member of parliament is saying to the rally. Is that what you're trying to say?
At some point, that's it. But at a certain point, you find no reason of going out there and you're fighting for a country when you're just working for food and rent. You do not have transport to go out there and maybe make campaigns. And you see the politics of this country have also become monetized. So you find you cannot interest yourself in standing in maybe for change, or at a certain point when you get a chance and you're famous and you're loved, you get funders, you go out there, the people that are funding you demand a lot from you. So maybe sometimes we are funded by wrong people who will demand us do what the government is doing, and we are not seeing progress. The corruption is high, unemployment is high. So it's too difficult for the youth to be convinced that, okay, if I'm driving my, which one is the smallest car? VTs. If I'm driving my VTs and I reach a certain place and a traffic officer is asking me, you do not have this and this, and I have my 5K, and I know if I go the other way around, I'm paying a lot of money, yet I do not even have food at home. It is better to do that because there is no other option. You're going to go there and you're going to suffer maybe in prison or paying that money, and you do not have any hope. And our parents are also telling us, if you cannot do that, what do you want to do? If you're going to stand in for politics, you're maybe opposition, and our parents are disappointed in us because they do not want to see us suffer out there. They just tell you rather keep at home and interest yourself in learning and unlearning. Rather than going out there, we lose you and we do not have any future.
Wow. Thank you, Joan. And Council Tumusime, I want to really hear from you. You see, in your introduction, you did tell us that you are both a political and a political rights a lawyer, you are in human rights, you are also in environment. And some of the things they talk about end up in the politics.
Right.
Whether you're talking employment, whether you're talking the education, whether you're talking the being in place of just one system that is not serving the people according to different people's judgment. And I want to hear your view as a lawyer. Uganda is party to the ICC, International Convention on Civil and Political Rights. And what that should tell us is that if we are signatory, then Ugandans must be able to express themselves in the different frames of those rights. And that includes people being able to, first of all, know what is going on in their country. It is an electoral season. I expect people to have a certain degree of civic competence. You are talking to university students who tell you, no, I don't care. What does that even say of our country if you have people in universities who should shape the next Uganda saying we are not even interested in what will actually take that Uganda to the next level, a Uganda they will live in? What does it paint for our country?
Well, it is a very big challenge to start with, that by the time you join university, at least your level of understanding is a little bit high compared to the senior 5, senior 6. Those are too excited. By the time you join university, the first year, you're at least seeing where your future is taking you. At least you have plans and this is the kind of a person I want to be. But talking about rights, it is intentional that these things are done to deny people access, even know that these rights exist. That's intention. That when you know that you have these rights, recognized at the national level and international level, then you will demand accountability and you demand for the rights to be protected, upheld, and then preserved. But the intention of most of the people that you have in leadership and the dictators at that level, I should call them, is to deny you the knowledge to find about those details of what are your rights, to what level must you enjoy those rights, what are your freedoms, what are your responsibilities. Jokingly, if you interact with many of the so-called intellectuals in different universities and including lawyers, the law students themselves, you ask them about their duties as citizens of this country, but they have zero knowledge about it. It is intentional that some of the things, if you don't involve yourself in researching and finding out. It's good that one of the panelists is a researcher. If you don't involve yourself to find out and dig more much deeper into finding out what are your rights or how must you enjoy your rights without interfering with the rest, then you will not be in a position to demand for whoever is in whatever position on what they must do, what they have not done, and what they need to do.
You see, Council, as you continue with that point, one of the things you talk about is the knowledge. And you see, this is a university student. I have heard arguments from different people that say, for example, the subject of political science was put out of the lower levels of education, that is secondary school and primary school, so that people are actually not able to have the knowledge.
Even the higher institutions no longer teach political science now.
Yes, and
I am a political science student.
No,
political education. That
yeah,
was
political
removed.
education, yeah.
you have to first major in it to be able to have full access to that discipline. And I want to ask, what would be the interest of a leadership of a country like Uganda in denying its citizens the right to know that I have a right to participate in political activities, to vote, and I shouldn't just vote. I must vote because of this reason and this one and this is how a state should look like. What would be the interest of a state at that level?
Informed people are hard people to manage. There are people that always demand accountability because they know what they're interested in, what they're entitled to, and at what level. So it is intentional that they keep you not knowing some of these things, including the political education, including the civic education, at how you must vote, what you must consider before voting. Those provisions are provided for in our constitution, and it is a duty of the state, including the electoral commission as part of the state, to take the people before we even start rolling out for the election process and period, that you must understand the roles of an MP. You must understand the roles of a councillor before you vote, because that will inform the kind of a person you are voting in that position, and then that will give you power to bring that person to account to whether they have performed and lived on what they are supposed to be doing. But once you have that power, then you will not be fooled in this kind of electioneering and waving and all that, and these campaigns, the way they are shaping. Because most of the people that are even following the campaign trail, I have watched a number of elections in this country. For the first week, most of these candidates are speaking about their campaign strategies, their manifestos. And it is usually at the level of a president. But in the second week, up to the end, up to the time we vote, everybody is now looking for how many people can I invite to my rally because of what is happening. Now the campaign strategy has turned into a different thing. Even the rallies themselves.
So
that you watch a rally up to the end, all these candidates at the presidential level are talking about their manifestos and what are their priorities. But a rally starts at 4 and ends at 6, but nobody has even tackled a single item in their manifesto. They are telling people what they're interested in hearing. They are giving them what they call vibe now. It must be a lively rally, not sitting them and teaching them the environmental policy that this regime or candidate B is interested in bringing, what policies must force. For example, the climate change that we are facing, what policies must shape how different systems are run, how different organs of the government are run, including our judiciary, how far must we go to protect the rights of different people, how must we treat each other. If we are in a technological era that is advancing each and every day, what policies are we putting in place, for example, to put control in the AI systems and the rest? Nobody is talking about that.
And you see, Council, and you want to ask yourself if you have that kind of campaign.
It is a trend and intentional that people and the leaders that you have in this country have diverted us from what we must be asking by denying us some of these basics that we must be knowing as citizens of this country, and then they are taking us in the line that they understand most of electioneering, of diverting you, of bringing now entertainers to follow and all that. It's his intention.
You could also ask yourself if the electorate are really, really interested in listening to that.
And yes, that's where I was taking him,
Of
because
course, of course.
we are going to discuss the detail of what these issues actually are a little later. But even with them being there, the issues, if I want to imagine at a rally downtown Kampala, if you come and you're discussing Uganda's environment policy and how you're going to mitigate some of the challenges of climate change, how many people from the new tax park down to the old tax park and will be willing to listen to that, as opposed to one who is coming and perhaps comes with a particular musician who has a good song and they're singing to
You
them.
see, that is the perception that you have, because that's the line you have been taken into to understand that when you sit at a campaign rally and you bring your manifesto, explain it, break it down. Don't come to tell about people environmental policy when they don't even understand what the environment is. Don't tell them about the climate policy that you want to introduce in downtown without talking about the issues of flooding that have affected them just recently. Break it down for them to understand, and you see if they will not sit to hear what you have. But you see, the problem that we all have is that we have been blindfolded to believe that if you go with such kind of a message in the people that, for example, are downtown in Kampala, they will not understand it. But that's the perception that has been driven into us, and you have also been fooled that that's how it's supposed to work, and you have fallen victims at the end of
Thank
it.
you, Council. Adir, I want to hear from you. You see, the Forum for Democratic Change, where the party you come from, has a presidential candidate, the Honorable Nathan Nandala Mafabi, and you have a manifesto out there. And first of all, you said you are legal representative for the party. I want to hear from you. What is the kind of reception you get? I've heard the Honorable Nandala Mafabi speak about putting money in the pockets of Ugandans, and he says he's going to, for example, give 100 million to every village to make sure that people in those villages are doing some work, which is more of another parish development model. I've heard him say he's going to create jobs for the youth. He's going to revive the agriculture sector. According to him, it is not okay. And what sort of reception, you members of the FDC, do you get from the people you speak to, these particular messages of, we want to give you money? What do they say?
Money in your pockets. Thank you so much. Still, I'm the legal representative of the Youth League of the Forum for Democratic Change. And our presidential candidate is Nathan Nandala Mafabi. It is important for us to recall or to know that the main problem that Ugandans are facing right now is poverty. And because there is no money in their pockets, that is why there is so many things that are happening. So as a party, one of the manifestos is to put money in people's pockets. If you see, as my colleague talked about the percentage of the youth in Uganda, it is the one which is leading. That's around 70%. So we see that these youth...
So maybe to make that very clear, people under the age of 35, so you have about 78% of the population,
Okay.
78 to 80, but specifically youth, it is just 22.7% of that.
So the young people, they are the majority,
Yes.
I can say. And these young people, they do not have jobs. They do not have any employment, like where they can get money. So at the end of the day, that is why they see campaign seasons as money-making seasons. That's why you see even in the rallies, you see that most of the people who come in those rallies of the presidential candidates, most of them are these young people. And they have hopes that if they go to these rallies, this is where they will get some money. And even bringing these musicians, these musicians themselves, there are some of them who are young people. Like they come in because they just don't go because they want to mobilize support maybe for that political party. It is an opportunity for them to get some money. And even the people who come, they come because they need some money. So at the end of the day, the party looked at the major problem, because even all the people who are doing agriculture, they are doing businesses, they are doing a lot of things, they are all looking for money. But at the end of the day, we see that it is really hard. We see a lot of young people going into practices just because of idleness.
Are the youth of the Forum for Democratic Change responsive to participation in the politics? And when you look at your campaign trail, when you look at when you call them in to be party to the different meetings the party has, do they come? And when they come, are they interested in the conversations the party is leading?
In most cases, if I can give an example, if maybe they've called for a meeting, maybe there's something to discuss, or maybe there's something to deliver, most of these youth, they come in. I'll not specifically look at my party. I'll look at it in general. Yes, because even when you tell someone like, come for such and such, there's a presidential candidate and it's going to be in Kitgum from 4 to 6 p.m. Then the person, like these young people, they're the very people who will be asking, how much are we going to be given? Have they brought money? Like they're just money-minded because of that. What? They are not interested in what these candidates are there to speak. They are not interested in their manifestos.
Could I interject a bit? Because I don't like the disease of deflation. And this is a very big problem that a lot of opposition parties have when it comes to certain party net discussions. You want to deflate from the question. Because the question was in terms of how, like, youth within the FDC, if they are willing and ready to participate within the processes that happen in the party itself. And I think in the introduction of this panel, there was a conversation around how politics has turned into a system of identity. People are going to vote according to political parties that align with this political party. And I think it's important for us to know from because already you're representing a presidential candidate out there, we need to understand, because if in-house, you already have challenges. FDC was one party, now you have FDC Katonga, you have PFF breaking off of FDC. How then can we expect that in terms of pushing and propelling the agriculture sector, you're going to be able to? Because some of the pertinent issues important towards propelling the agriculture sector is having a proper import and export system, which requires integration within the East African region. So if as a party you cannot internally progress, how do we expect you to propel such policies? But beyond that, no,
I was coming to that. I was coming to that.
Because you did not give her time to explain to you how they want to put money.
Yeah, true.
In our
when the
pockets.
question
And
came, my issue is when the question, it's not being
Now you're
judgmental.
making it.
This is the thing.
Yeah, because
When
I
the
was
question-
coming to that.
FDC
My issue was,
and the other parties
when the
that broke
question came, the option to respond to the question was to say, I want to look at it generally. What is general about the question that
Yeah,
was
I
asked?
said let me
And
first
I-
tackle it generally.
Me, I also have a question about that.
Yes.
We have less than 2 or 3 months to elections. We are in the campaign season, and you're talking about putting money in people's pockets. When you had 5 years to prepare for that, how do you put money in people's pockets when you've not trained them and educated them about the use of that money? Because if right now you give me a Mercedes-Benz, even if I sold it, I would not use
No,
that
no, no,
money
no, no.
effectively.
You cannot take someone to the garden without a hoe.
I want to yes, now
You cannot go to the garden without a hoe.
I come in to protect her, to take her point home, and you are telling us, and you see, when we say that we have a citizenry that is, she mentioned that many people are not interested in political activities. She recalled it, and he gave us the reasons why many of them are not interested. And I want to hear from you, from the perspective of a leader in the Forum for Democratic Change, the young people you talk to, those that are members of your party, but also those you meet along the way, when you speak to them, are they even aware of what is going on? But two, do they appreciate the importance, the significance of what you are telling them in terms of an agenda that is, for example, going to transform their economics, their finance as individuals, as families, as people who want to not just survive but thrive in a country like Uganda?
Yeah, thank you so much. I started by looking at it generally because at the end of the day, I would still drive it home. If you look at the young people of the party, we have mobilized them. We have mobilized them. In fact, we have our agenda. We have our agenda as the young people. So we do not stop at just the party. That's why I came to bring it out generally, because I'm a national leader. I'm not just a leader in the party because I represent the youth. And what happens within the youth of FDC, or what happens in FDC can also happen somewhere. That's why I cannot fail to listen from some youth from NRM, or maybe the National Unity Platform, because the matters that affect the youth in the FDC also affects those ones in different political parties. So we have different agenda. Like the first one is about bring about employment. And because we are pushing this, because most of the youth, they fear to participate. You cannot deny the facts, because those are actually the facts. So we are mobilizing them. They are engaging. They're even participating. They are contesting. They have come to be active participators, not just people who are sensitizing, or maybe the people who are mobilizing. We have candidates.
And what is the magic that is making these people interested in this activity? Because I want to imagine that every student that is at the university, for example, knows that they need a job, knows that they need a specific skill to have a job, knows that they need a particular leader to make sure their country progresses, but they choose not to do that. And I want to imagine briefly, as you conclude on that point, what has the FDC done to attract those you have attracted to believe in that and be willing to participate?
The party has gone ahead to sensitize the masses on different platforms on the importance of standing out to work, such that they do not go for politics as maybe employment opportunities. You have to have something that you can start on, that you can survive on even without politics, so that you push on a positive agenda, something that is going to benefit each and every one. The party has gone ahead to actually to bring about unity. Yes, because FDC is an opposition party, but FDC is a party that works together. Specifically the young people, we work together with other parties. Yes, because we've gone to academies, for example, the Uganda Democracy Academy, whereby it brings all the young people from different political parties or even from different institutions to come together and learn what affects them. And at the end of the day, we see that it has brought unity among the youth and also the political parties at large.
Thank you. And Cynthia, look, the conversation is centering so much on the young people, and understandably, because there are many in this country. When you have, when you say 75% below the age of 30, 35, that means ideally the entire country is in there. And I want to hear from you as a young person, as a youth, and looking at people in that category, but also the lower ones, the children. What should interest these kind of people in participating in the politics? And once those issues are there set out, how should the politicians package that message for the youth and the young people, for them to understand it, so that they're able then to decide rightfully upon that message they receive? And looking at, for example, Makerere University, what are the needs of the students of Makerere?
Okay, so I think I want to start by agreeing with the council to my right on the idea that we've accepted ourselves to be comfortable in the narrative that people don't really care about the political situation of the country. More likely we fear, but I think the most important push that as politicians they need to take on is delivery in terms of the message. Because when you look at that population, not all of them are educated. you're concentrating on, for instance, we who are in school, who are at university, but how about the young people in the gig economy? The ones that are actually owning the stalls downtown, the ones that are in the market constantly looking for money to survive. Those are the people that we also need to greatly care about, because some of them are the reasons we are in school. The money they are making downtown is what is sustaining a lot of us in school. And it becomes a very, very important thing in terms of ensuring that you have political inclusion. That means even in the manifesto, are you able to explain to these people how they are affected by certain decisions that are made in parliament? Are you able to tell this person that if we allow you to settle in wetlands, for instance, it's going to affect you in the long run. You're going to remain homeless, and that pushes government to have to compensate you. If government is spending a lot in compensating you, and for instance, spending a lot of money in something that could be avoided, it means we are going to borrow. When we are borrowing, we are going to remain dependent. It means you force the arm of government to have other policies that push and constrict you, that push them to increase taxes, meaning that the money in circulation in the economy is going to be less. How are we able to explain these things to individuals to understand them so that they know how they are affected? If you're pushing, for instance, for creation of employment, you cannot just put it out there and say, we are going to create employment for the people. How are you going to do it is important for you to explain to the masses and citizens, because otherwise you look like a sham. You look like the likes of Katoka Jubi that are going to come and say, Mwari anage mumpe kondie. And that's the narrative, and people will support you because they say, at least he's been honest with himself.
And maybe for clarity, maybe the person you're talking about is the Honorable Katolu Bwama, not Katoka Jubi. But again, importantly, so if you say that the youth at that level are involved, first of all, you agree that the youth are involved in the business, the economics downtown, they are working. We have youth that are doctors, you have young people that are teachers in the different professions, but also we have youth that are in leadership. We have members of parliament, you have people that are mayors, you have people that are councillors, you have people that in the different levels of leadership, even in the private sector. And many at times, you get the impression that when they are in these levels of leadership, you're a leader yourself at a party, do they get to actually put out the actual impression and image of what is needed for the young people you are talking about downtown, operating kiosks and paying for your tuition, downtown operating kiosks and looking after families? Do the youth in leadership actually represent those youth that are on the streets there?
I think if we are looking at the truth, a lot of these things are either televised or seen on social media. We've seen the parliamentary sessions in UBC for people who are interested in watching. We've seen just recently the concluded NYC elections and what they were. You have to pay someone to come and vote for you. I don't know how you expect a continuity of a system to create change. So it is also upon us as young people to hold ourselves accountable, that when we enter leadership, are we doing what we need to do to change that system? But also, in terms of people that are actually trying to change the system, do the structures accommodate for that change? Which I think are the two major things that we need to put in question as we consider the participation of young people in changing and pushing forward matters that are pertinent to their existence within this particular state. I just think, one, we have become comfortable to the gig economy to say, I'm going to turn everything into a gig to benefit from it because I can't change it. And that becomes a very big problem in terms of pushing forward what the actual needs of young people are. And we create an echo chamber to say that if you are not within the leadership structure, there is nothing much you can benefit. And it's not benefit in the sense of changing a system for the majority. It's benefit in terms of filling your own pocket and your own survival.
All right, hold it on that point. And colleagues, we are still on the Youth Roundtable discussing the electoral season, elections, and what actually is going to shape the decisions Ugandans take as they cast their votes come 15th of January 2026. We're heading into a very short break and we shall be right back.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from this very short break. It is the Youth Roundtable here on Civic Space TV. My name is Philip Molisa, and here today we are discussing what is shaping the electoral season, but conclusively the votes, what will shape them come January 2026. And I'm joined by a panel of distinguished citizens of this country who are voters, leaders, and people so much informed about matters election in this country, Uganda, and beyond the borders of Uganda. And here on, we are having a conversation around where are we at and where are we going in the next 1 month, 2 months, and looking at where the election, which kind of leaders the election will produce for this country. And colleagues, where we left off, we are having a conversation around the reception of the message from the different political parties. And Joan, I want to really hear from you. You see, as a young person, what sort of message speaks to you when a politician comes to you? And you're a student, you are, apart from being a student, you are someone who will want to work after your education. You have a family, you have sisters and brothers. And when a member of parliament comes out to you, and what sort of issues do you want them to talk about? And have you had any of the members of parliament in your area speak about the issues you are interested in? And have you in any case made choice of who you are going to vote for based on those issues?
Okay. Apparently, I'm from Rwanda district, and I don't think I've had any of them talk about the things I expect them to talk about. It is a district where we have most of the youth dropping out of school to get married under the pressure of parents. Maybe they do not have some basic needs, or they cannot afford school fees and tuition, or they are not aware of what is taking place in the country. So, what do the politicians do? The politicians go out there and encourage the same thing. They go out there, give out pigs, they are called piglets. They give out piglets, they give out, what else? Okay, those small things. They buy them alcohol, and those are the people that people are voting for, the people are loving and like, they are not going out there to educate the masses, to educate the girls, that they need to keep in school, study, and become like them. So apparently I do not see them do what they are supposed to do. In my own constituency, maybe other constituencies are doing well. But where I come from, it is really hard. It's a bad situation. And where I find a problem is we always wait for the political season. These people are going to come to Kampala and be in Kampala. And when it clocks the electoral season, or maybe 1 year to the season, they go out there. And it's still worse. Things are worsening the more. So they do what, can give people what to be there. They can buy them soap, they can buy them salt to make them have a living at that particular moment. But I feel like they should always prepare. When I'm Joan and I'm trying to prepare to standing as a member of parliament in the near future, maybe 2031, I should start now. When I go out there, when I go to my village, what do I tell my fellow girls? What do I tell my fellow youth? What do I encourage them to keep in school? Do I educate them or do campaigns to educate them about the pads and everything? But if we keep coming to Kampala and then we wait for the political season to go and see what is lacking, and we are pressurized to give people money, to give them soap, to give them salt, I do not think we are going to do the right things.
All right, thank you. And you see, it is very sorry that you described such a situation in Rwanda district. But I want to ask, for example, with your knowledge of what the people of your constituency, your district, your village, and your home, if you had a member of parliament that comes to the village teaching people about the national policy and the law, what the law says about child marriages, what the national policy on education is, and how parents should behave around knowing that it is a right of the children to be taken to school and it is the responsibility of the parent to provide for that child and so on. Do you think such a candidate is going to get audience in Rwanda district, and certainly will they be voted into power against someone who is giving out the salt, the pads, the soap and so on?
Again, I'll go back to where the problem comes from. The problem comes from me, Joan, getting to know that I will interest myself in future politics and I do not prepare for that journey. I go out there, I make the money and go to the village and I'm like, okay, I have the money, I can influence people. So that is where the problem comes from. But if we get to learn that, I interest myself in politics and maybe I want to change something, for example, I'm a feminist and I want to see change in my society. You start from there, you do campaigns, you train youth at that moment. By the time 5 years elapse, people have understood your ideology, people have understood your interests, and they already see the future. But right now, it's very hard in 1 year to go to the whole constituency and you're educating people about policies. You're educating people about why a member of parliament is not supposed to pay school fees for your kids. It is very hard right now to educate people that, we need to prepare for our health sector to grow. In 1 year, it needs preparation, it needs time.
In other words, Joan, you were saying that there is a huge gap and lack of civic education in our society. Thank you. And Councillor Tumusime, look, when you follow the politics of many different countries out there, and understandably there are situations where you find people discussing what this one is a member of our tribe, is a member of our circle. But most importantly, you have areas in the world where people discuss ideology. You have people that believe in environment, and in some places they are called the Greens, and they will discuss environment and what needs to be done about environment. When you go to the United States and you find the competition between the Democrats and the Republicans, and people are discussing how let us advance the concept of capitalism from the side of the Republicans, and the Democrats are saying, oh no, let us mix a little bit of socialism in there and make sure people can be assisted by government. And you realize they are discussing that. What sort of issues create the difference in our politics when you look at, for example, the NRM and the National Unity Platform or the FDC? What is the difference in ideology between those two? And certainly, do you have members aligned to those parties based on those differences in ideology, or we have other reasons?
Genuinely, to tell you that most of the reasons people join political parties, most of them, it's my opinion, is that one, some of them are taken by politics of identity. How do I know person A? How do I know person B? How will I benefit if Kato now is the member of parliament for this area? If he's the president of this political party, how will I benefit from that? Two, where does Kato come from? What does he have to offer to me? For example,
is he married?
Support you? Is he married like he says? Is he, the different reasons. and it's not one-sided, both in the ruling government, the NRM party, and the opposition parties. It is general. It cuts across. That you ask a senior leader in a political party about the ideology of that political party, but they have zero knowledge about it. And they will go on TVs and they say how they represent this part at this position, how powerful they are, even at the national level. Yes, but what does your party believe in? What is its ideology? But they have nothing. But when you go deeper, you find that most of these people align to these political parties because of the politics of identity. And it is the problem that we're having as a country. Even in churches, even everywhere, that the Catholics will want to align with their fellow Catholic, because when he comes to church on Sunday, he'll be given a front seat and you'll have a biggest envelope offer. That even when things go worse, for example, these people are caught in different scandals, corruption scandals, the Karamoja Mabati being the biggest on point, that you saw a certain group from a different area in buses running to the court, to the anti-corruption court, say, "Ono wafe mumuleke, you can't
Leave
don't
our
sacrifice,
son, leave
leave
our
our
daughter."
son. This is the only one we have in the whole region. This is that it has now resolved into, now who do you identify with? If you meet Kato, which language are you going to speak? That's a person. We are no longer on ideologies, what we believe in, how we want to shape this country, and what future do we want. Because the biggest point is that the decision makers we have in this country, for example, in the ruling government, are old people that no longer have something to lose. Me, as I was growing, I was told I am a leader of tomorrow. I am now
Tomorrow
30
has
years.
come.
And up to now, you're the
Okay, and I am still waiting for the first leader to go, so that the one of 80 years plus to go, so that the one of 70 years plus to go, and the one of 60 up to reach me. I am seeing the one of 80 not even David. That people have reached a level of losing hope. And that's how most of these politicians have been able to manipulate us. But now you are no longer looking at what ideology does this person bring on the table for the future and the development of this country, in whatever line, in whatever belief you want to go into. But now we are looking on, where do I have quick and easy access to the service I want? You know that if now you want to be taken to Nairobi Aga Khan Hospital for treatment, a specified medical treatment, you must have somebody to call, because you don't have the financial capacity to take yourself. Even for you to be easily and quickly taken out of the country for that kind of treatment, you need somebody. And you have seen people talk about it, and that's what they are bragging in. It's no longer about what do you have to offer, what does he have to offer. You strike a balance and decide. That's what has defined our politics now.
Wow. Adiro,
Yes.
the Forum for Democratic Change, it is your party. What is your ideology? What does the party believe in? What are the deal breakers for that party?
The Forum for Democratic Change believes in a country where there is okay, what I can say is that if you look at our party constitution, our party constitution and the ideology that it looks at, one, it looks at bringing about like one goal of development of all
I have heard
Ugandans.
your party president on different occasions say that they believe in social justice. I have heard them say that at different occasions that they want to see economic transformation of this country, and maybe that is the basis of what they believe in. How much do they do in making sure that all party members at the lower levels understand this, and as a ripple effect, they get to teach it to the other people they meet along the way, so that they can be inspired to join the party that is seeking to take power?
Yeah, the party structure comes from the top up to the grassroots, meaning from the top to the bottom, up to the people who are just down there, like the ordinary people who are there. And the medium by which they always preach this is through media, and sometimes they communicate this in writings, whereby they have a constitution. They also have circumstances whereby they move to different districts and educate people about about their goal. Like, for example, having a transformation, economic transformation of having money. Like, it is not just something whereby people are making a fun of it, of maybe saying like money in people's pockets. It's not just by words. It is it is dug deeper, whereby I can give an example, because if you listen to all the communications of these comrades, most of them were talking about people not having money and they are unable to access different things, like, for example, pads for the girls, and all that is because of poverty. I know it cannot be achieved in one day, but there are processes by which it can be achieved. Like, they even, for the youth, they told the youth to start up businesses whereby they can even support. They can even support. Me, myself, there was a time I talked to the president, because I have my small business dealing in snacks, daddies, crisps, and all that. So when I told him about it, because I didn't have the market and all that, so he told me to get more 5 people, and I start supplying supermarkets. You get, and those are his what? His supermarkets. So this one, in that, he's building us. He's building us in that you will not be lured just by maybe bringing for you sugar, or maybe they bring for you soap, or maybe they bring for you this and this, because you are able to afford them, meaning that you are going to stand up for something that is that lines with your what? With your interest. For instance, we see that if you do not have like ground, or you do not have economic independence, majorly we can give an example of most women, they do not have economic independence. That is where you'll always be what? You'll always be used. That is why we see that the youth who are not economically independent, they are being used. Even mothers, that's why they give them milk, they give them sugar, they give them soap during campaign seasons, only during campaign seasons. And after that, that is a done deal. Then they go, thank you.
Or thank you. And Cynthia, look, the diagnostics here is that many of our political parties do not have a defined ideology, but we know of the things they speak about. They say we want we want equality, we want to protect the environment, generic as they may be, and they keep saying them across the board. And we could forgive them for that. But there are positions that government has taken already. You have a position how government has treated education. You have a position on how, for example, Uganda is involved in conflicts out of the country. You have the UPDF in the Congo, you have the UPDF in Southern Sudan, you have the UPDF
In Somalia.
Somalia. They pulled out of Central African Republic, although they say some of them are still there. We all these things that the government does and talks about our foreign policy, but also the internal sector, the health sector, and you don't get to hear leaders of the different political parties come out with a position of actually, or if the NRM is handling the health sector this way, but we as the Forum for Democratic Change, we would want to see them handle it the other way. If they are putting 1 billion in paying salaries of doctors, we want to make
Philip,
it 2
that
billion.
expectation is too high from people who can't define their own ideologies. Don't you think? It's a very high bar.
Maybe you need to help me. What is the exact status of the leadership we have in the different political parties and indeed out there?
The biggest thing that most of these political parties ride on is capacity to manipulate emotions. And then we create a sham to say people vote based on emotions. Emotions appeal to the environment that you live in. You're not going to be a lifeless person. It's only lifeless people that don't have emotions. So if you tell me I deserve change, And my mother grew up seeing Museveni as president. I've grown up seeing Museveni as president. I'm soon graduating from university. There are age mates of mine that already have families and children. I'm a godparent to one of my friend's child, and that's the president they are going to see. It's definitely easier to ride on that wave to tell someone, you need change. However, do we sit down to question the type of change that we need?
Exactly.
The lazy argument we have to that question is to say, all others will come later. And the lack of information that sits within our generation is the very same thing with the political parties and how they are formed. You asked her to define the ideology of FDC and you see how she struggled and mumbled for like about a minute. And yet at the inception of FDC, you saw the likes of Kizza
I was
Besigye.
bringing
I am
about it.
non-aligning, but you saw how he largely pushed for affirmative action towards girl child education, which was later a policy that was adopted by Museveni at the inception of NRM when he transitioned from NRA.
Where is that
Free
energy
education,
today?
It was
That's how they all started.
exactly.
Most of them.
So if your structure in itself has no sustaining ideology, there is no way that you're going to convince people. And the worst part about it, Philip, is you want to give an example of US, we've gone far. Just yesterday, I was posting something on my status. In Kenya, people sit in bars to have panel discussions about feminism, about governance, educating themselves in bars. In Uganda, when you go to a bar, the next morning the scandal is, oh, this person was caught in a toilet having sex and it's going to trend for 3 months.
The recent statistic from the Uganda Bureau of Statistics tells us that over 85% of Ugandans
They're very happy people.
Happy doing
That's the question.
So, and again, they also tell us that about 90% of Ugandans are actually educated now. And I want to understand, what sort of education are
I
we
think
getting?
we also confuse literacy
that,
and education. Those are two different things.
Yes,
People are
I'm
illiterate, not
quoting a
educated.
fact from UBOS, a government
But you
institution.
see, even before
And-
you go to UBOS, me, I want to have a very, very different view of UBOS. UBOS conducted population census recently. 1 week after the results were out, then they were forged. Now you're still basing on
on
their statistics.
UBOS, and you're
to-
trying to
No.
say that UBOS is
Let us
actually
live there, let
good.
us talk reality.
It
At least I've
remains
lived
the
with so many
legal
people.
institution we have as a country to refer to for facts in terms
But
of
who says
statistics.
legal positions can't be
But
questioned?
they can't be questioned
They
because they are
can't be
facts.
questioned.
And they can't be seen from the word go on your ground.
Yes.
Did they reach your home to do the census?
Are they independent?
We must
Are the
accept
results
that
they are putting
we
out,
must
they are
accept that
Yes.
things must be questioned.
Yes, they are legally acceptable to provide data and statistics.
But which data?
But
they
what kind of
provide?
data are they providing to the rest of the people? Do you believe that 95% of the people,
Ugandans are educated.
do you believe that 80% are happy people?
And the worst part about it is if you sit down, she's telling you from her home district, you have a lot of girls dropping out to
Dropping
go
out
and get
before
married.
senior four.
It's the same situation in Eastern Uganda. You saw the statistics, I think, during COVID-19
And
in Northern
Western
Uganda.
Uganda.
So how do we account for over 90% when you have increased school dropouts? It just doesn't make sense.
Level it down to
While
the
releasing
small
the
LC1.
the
Level it down
results
to a
of
small LC1 before you level it down. Each one of us here has an LC1 where I come from.
But
How
all that
many
cannot
people
be blamed
are
to political
educated?
parties.
How many people are educated
Cannot be
actually to a
blamed.
minimum standard of senior 4? Start from your level, then you multiply and then
I
come to the
personally, when I go to
95%.
my village, I'm the queen, because very few of them have gone to the university.
Look
Not
at your
even
LC1.
institutions. Because they drop out, and you know that parents are influencing them to drop out, go get married.
And
for
there are
2
very
cows,
many
1 cow.
factors for that.
Her
There are very many
explanation-
There are
factors.
many, yes.
This is
We
the-
are
There are
not
very
blaming
many
it on
factors.
one
Exactly.
side.
It's
No.
But
not a
the way you're
one-sided
looking
thing.
at it, it's like politicians, but there are so very many
But it
factors
is
that
your
contribute to
responsibility.
that.
No, even beyond that,
It is their responsibility they are
as a
doing that.
politician.
If the,
We
if
decided
the
to
government
solve
in
people-
power is not doing
No, we
it,
decided
and you're
to go
criticizing someone who has
political
not yet gotten
We
power, what is
decided
that?
as
But
a
this is the
country to
thing.
go political parties.
It is my
The
issue.
politics
You
of
are
a
the leaders. You
country-
must define what people need.
the
And we have
politics of
defined
the
it, and we are
country.
coming
So
in
if
to
you-
do- to work
if we
on
hold
it.
you accountable to action, what Has FDC all of
The
a sudden not
politics
had
of the
MPs?
country.
No, you cannot compare FDC and NRM. You cannot compare.
The question
You
is,
cannot
has
compare
FDC
that to
not
not
had
have
MPs?
movements. You get
has
what
FDC
FD
not
has
had
done.
MPs?
Let me
What
resolve
FDC
this
has
for
done.
you.
It is impactful.
Let
You
me
get
help
you
to
cannot
break this down
compare
for
it to
you.
the
I have one
movement.
simple question.
No, you
I
cannot
have one
compare it.
simple
There are
question.
things we need to.
Has FDC not had MPs in parliament?
Exactly.
And the issue
It
that
has-
they discussing,
and the
is it
impacts
Uganda
have
as
been
a whole or
seen.
particular
And the
constituency?
political
let me tell you,
parties
the
influence the
composition
politics
also
of the
matters.
country. About the
The
Eastern
composition
region
of the
Insurgency.
members of parliament from different political parties also matters. You
This is
get
the question.
that is why
Why
even
don't
when they
you-
are making
why don't
laws,
you put
listen.
law-
I have one simple
Okay,
Even
now,
when they are
back-
making laws,
back
they are
here.
frustrated
Back
just because
here.
they are few in the
I have a
parliament.
question.
Back here.
So who in
Yes.
NRM is going to oppose fighting teenage pregnancy in Eastern
It all
Uganda?
begins with all of us. If you're there
That's my
criticizing
question.
the opposition
So the
and then
country
we
We
are
are
not
not
fighting,
but we are not
That
all
social
leading
and
because
through
someone
FDC.
who
We are
someone
not
who
all
has not
leading
yet
through
picked
FDC.
power, you cannot criticize the person who have not picked power. You get.
And I
That
asked
is
the
why
question,
we
don't
are
we have
feeling
FDC
it.
MPs in parliament?
They are there, but
Which
they are not so
amount of
many, but
power
they are
do you
doing what
need?
they can do in their respective
The
constituencies.
thing is, the politics of the country influence how we live socially, economically, and how we develop as a country. Because the government or the elites determine how the country moves.
But
They
are you
influence
aware that-
everything. So
are you
if we
aware that
decided
even-
to go political parties, we have to look at what the political parties are doing. What is opposition doing? We are saying the ruling government has failed, but then what is opposition
Which
doing?
is not news.
We
The
are
That's
ruling
saying
like
that
government
it's
has
news that
failed,
they
and at the end of the day, you
They
are
are not
comfortable
doing-
with it. You are comfortable
We are
with the
comfortable
failure.
with what?
See,
You are just comfortable with it.
Okay,
The
colleagues.
society is the
Colleagues.
problem. They
Colleagues.
are
Colleagues,
giving the
colleagues,
chance.
colleagues, let's come back here.
let me come in a minute just
And,
before you,
yes, we're
you
going
take on the
to
discussion and debate.
have an orderly conversation. You are still on the Youth Roundtable here on Civic Space TV, and we're discussing elections and the management of this country, Uganda, and precisely looking at what are actually the issues that are a pain point for Ugandans that we should see our political parties, our politicians talk about, and indeed develop a plan and strategy to make sure we deliver a Uganda that serves us all. Back to you, colleagues. And these are very important issues you raise here. And Tumsima, I'm going to start with you. Because you see, the failures are there in our society. The failures are there. But when we look at how we are behaving, even in a situation where we have failed, there is no big difference. In fact, some of the things we've been doing at 50% have perhaps gone down to 40% and 30%. And one asks, what are the chances that we're going to have progress if we continue having a leadership? I oversaw in the past 2-3 weeks that there is a television station that has been hosting debates of different candidates, members of parliament. And you get to listen to members of parliament who can hardly say where they went to school or
What are their roles?
And the politics
And
of this country attracts,
you
does
get
not attract
members
wise
of
people.
parliament who do not know what the role of a member of parliament is. You have mayors who do not know what the role of a mayor is. And of course, the constitutional requirement is senior 6. And these are persons who are putting out there to discuss laws on banking, to discuss laws on aviation, to discuss laws on engineering. And Tumsime, I want to start with you. Is it about time, first of all, we revise the academic requirements of our leaders? But two, even if we do it, will it serve to change what we want to see change down in the societies here in Uganda?
Well, I've said it over and over that, you see, the reason that requirement for senior 6 was put in the constitution was dependent on the statistics and the realities that were available at the time. And so many people have said the reasons as to why, including the people that participated in the proclamation of the constitution. They have openly said it why. They never wanted to cross out most of their comrades that they went to bush with. The politics of identity that I'm talking about. Secondly, it is timely because an MP will go to parliament, make a legislation, and you have seen a number of constitutional petitions that are surrounding the laws that have been legislated in that parliament. That the senior 6 lever, they don't care whether you passed or you did not pass. No, as long as you finished senior 6, you qualify to be a member, including the president. they would pass a law, not even considering asking themselves the little considerations that they must follow before they come up with any legislation. You get? That's why we have a lot of expenses by the Attorney General Chambers going to defend useless, poorly drafted, poorly, I don't know, without any kind of a development they have to bring into the country laws in the constitutional court. That's where we'll be on a daily basis. That law will require a lawyer who finished 4 years in a law school, added a postgraduate diploma, and has been in practice for a number of years to sit down and interpret that law to the rest of the people that are watching or everywhere. That it will require a judge at the level of the Court of Appeal, the Constitutional Court, who has been in practice for over 10 years, adding all that, but who is making this law that will govern everybody. So I think, and I truly believe that if we are not being malicious to ourselves, that's the next amendment bill that would be in Parliament to amend that qualification. So that we have people that, one, know the importance of making a law, know which kind of laws they have to make, and that the laws they are making must align themselves with the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda as a grand norm. But because we have now seen on the kind of how we get leaders in this country, and this is not in my own area or any other area, that we shall sit here and make a plan and say that, you see, if you become an MP, then I will be your driver, my sister will be your
Secretary.
personal secretary, and then my brother, who is a doctor, will be a personal doctor. That qualifies you to be a member of parliament here. Or else that once you get money, some of them use actually academic documents of their friends that you see. If you have some money, I've made some little money. Because the politics in this country have been commercialized, that they lied to so many people that they were making an amendment on the age limits to allow young people to also take shape and participate in the elections in this country. But a young person who has finished university, who has been employed for 5 years, cannot afford the 500 million, 600, 800 million for you to be able to actually make an announcement that you want to contest as an MP for example, in my own Western region. That it is intentional that you are full to that level, because the person who is making that amendment does not consider the repercussion that will come at the end of it all, does not consider the effect that that kind of a law will make. But because he has been there, he has some little money to go and spend and splash out. That's no longer a problem. We have so many laws that have outlived their time, because we must believe that laws are living things, that they grow with time. That things that must be prioritized are no longer prioritized, but people are just popping into some other person's business on how I am going to use my social media and all that. All is this. When you have challenges that must be tackled timely, depending on the changing time. So the answer is that we need to amend that law, and we must increase the level of academic qualification for one to be a leader, including councillors. Don't limit it to only MPs. Because councillors at their levels make bylaws. They are laws still. So having somebody who cannot even write or sign that they are going to make a law that will run the whole sub-county, it is very shameless.
Thank you so much for that. And colleagues, our time is really much spent. We have about 8 minutes to be out of here. So we shall use a minute or two for each of us to, by way of getting to the end of the conversation, tell me, for the country of Uganda, where we are now, we've talked about the challenges and many of them we cannot finish, but what strategic decisions, I think we've talked about the education, but in the other sectors, what strategic decisions, but also strategic investments should government of Uganda and the politicians that are looking at taking power for the next 5 years look at investing in, so that Uganda, one, can be sustained, but also pushed to the next level? I know the NRM government has their agenda to transform the economy from about $55 billion to $500 billion in the next 5 years. And what sort of investments should they make to make sure that is achievable? Or if it is the FDC that wants to put money in our pockets, or if it is the Common Man's Party or the Alliance for National Transformation, what should that look like? And I'll start with you, Adiro.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think what would be best to invest in for the next candidate who will maybe win for the presidential seat is not to look at specifically only people who have learned, or maybe people who have gone to higher education, because there are very many people who have not reached where some of us have reached, and yet they really also need to live and survive. People who have not gone to school. That's why I think they should invest in technical skills, whereby they teach people how to make money without, like, for example, maybe handworks. Maybe you make daddies. Maybe you go and you start doing tailoring and you do other things, so that at least all of us we be financially okay. Yes.
Thank you, Adira, and it's very important. One of the previous times I was interviewing a member of parliament, and he told me we need to invest in ICT and artificial intelligence. And my question to him, because he was from the ruling party, okay, since you know about this ICT thing, what is the position of government in building data centers so that we are able to grow in the field of AI and ICT you're talking about? And his next, what should have been a response was that, what is a data center? And that spoke a lot about what that leader should be, and chances are that he is going to win. Cynthia, what should we look at in those leaders? What investments or decisions should be taken to propagate this country to the next level?
I think the biggest thing is in terms of integration for us as an East African region, which could heavily be prioritized, because that's the biggest push in creating employment. Integration on an East African level means that you now create accessibility for enforcement of things like the Common Market Protocol that ensures we have standardized education throughout the region, but it also means that your degree in Uganda can be accredited in Kenya and you have capacity to be employed in Kenya. That is just by far one of the ways you can increase the level of employment that can exist within Uganda as a country. And then within the agriculture sector, I think agriculture in itself is reliant on capacity to export, is reliant on our market in itself is also reliant on importation. Are we able to have a standard tariff that exists between the East African community that enables you as a farmer, for instance, that is going to be in Yumbe district or wherever, to export your yams, to export your coffee, and be able to profit from it and benefit from it? But the second investment, like you talk about, AI is such a crucial thing. However, this expectation cannot come out of basic fear for technology. The moment we're in an electoral process, you're rushing to shut down the internet, you're rushing to shut down Facebook, for instance. I think we need to agree that as society grows, you as individuals must as well grow. So adaptation to these environments and being able to position ourselves strategically is important for us as a country in terms of propulsion towards an economically stable atmosphere and ensuring that people do get money within their pockets. The third thing, in as much as we want to standardize the quality of education, we also must ensure that our education institutions are not just making people literate, but educating people. I think it's also a call to civil society organizations, because part of their mandate is the idea that you get to carry out civic education. For instance, I think it's a big push that Center for Constitutional Governance has had in terms of educating people on the Constitution and understanding their constitutional rights. I think these things become crucially important in not just a civically space, but in participation in the civic space for individuals within these particular societies. And lastly, I think is just on criticisms within political parties. The most important thing to understand is that as we seek for transition and we seek for change, we also must question the nature of change that we have, because that's a Marxist push. And you see, with Marxism, society becomes classified. We need to ask ourselves that when we do have this transformation, when we do have this change, do our structures have the capacity to grapple with the change and survive in the long term to profit the people? Otherwise, we are just going to have a rebirth of the same system by different people, which I think is important in terms of how we criticize these political parties and what they promise to deliver for us. Leadership is not about power. Leadership is about authority, and authority can only be vested through the people that you're trying to guide and shape.
Thank you, Cynthia, for that. And John, what do we do?
So one of the things that we should do, as Cynthia has said, is questioning what the opposition is doing. If we are looking at transition, is the opposition preparing the country for the transition? Or are they doing the right thing? If we try to investigate, are they doing the right things, the things they are talking about? Some days back, I was DP, Democratic Party, and I was in for their elections. But the things I saw told me, no, you do not need to be in any political party. You are not a politician, you're just a leader. So if they talk about truth and justice in DP and they do not do, like they can't even justify who the president is and how he came into power, then their opposition, those are the people we are looking at to create the change. They are claiming that they are trying to do democracy by the dialogue or dialoguing with the government. And then you see the things they are doing internally in their political party, the bribes they are making in their political party, how they are exercising power and trying to rig elections. And then you question yourself, which Uganda are we going to have tomorrow? If these same people are not giving us power in those political parties in opposition, they are trying to put the people that have their own interests, not the interests of our political parties, and then we claim transition. Which transition are we looking at? It might be worse. So one thing they should do, I think, is to try not to look at the only political seasons, to always prepare the nation, to try early and be like, what is Uganda lacking? What is the education sector lacking? Can we do this? Can we do mass campaigns? When we're looking at ICT, the growth of ICT, we are seeing countries growing. But then what are opposition parties doing? I always put a blame on opposition parties because they come in during the political season and they are telling you NRM has failed on this. What are you doing? Slowly by slowly, because I believe me as a person, I can start slowly and I create the change, and by the time I go back to the people, they are like, okay, this girl, when she was 18, when she was 20, she did this, she trained us on how to live, on how to make money, on how to grow money, on how to multiply the money. But if you're not doing that and you come into during the political season and you're criticizing or even doing worse, you're trying to tell people you're giving them money, you've not trained them, and then you've not looked at NRM that has given people money and they've failed, then what are we looking at? So I believe we should always prepare for the political season before the season.
Wow, what a statement. And Council?
Yes. About 2 or 3 words. Discipline. 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 We have different organs and systems of the government. Allow each organ to do what it is supposed to do. We shall have solved a lot of problems. Then we have to learn to prioritize and be realistic to each other. If we say agriculture is a backbone of this country, how much have you planned to invest in agriculture? What priority is it at? Discipline and being realistic too. And then maybe the last one is about investing in things that have an addition to us. For example, the infrastructure. You have seen different presidential candidates cry everywhere about the poor state of the roads that we have. Things that matter to us. Health. We need to make sure to learn how to prioritize, to be realistic on what priorities can work for everybody, and they must not be selective. Discipline will solve the rest of the problems that we have in this country.
All right, very powerful point there. And speaking priority, for example, in investment, just a week or two ago, I think government procured 196 vehicles for chairmen of LOC5 who are going out of office.
And KCC as
And,
well.
so certainly when you look at if the outgoings are being given vehicles, then we have an election and 2 months later you buy for the new and on top of we've just bought for RDCs and deputy RDCs and assistant RDCs and a lot of that. But colleagues, thank you so much for your thoughts. And once again, Joan Bionanevye, thank you so much from International University of East Africa Council. Katoto Musime, thank you so much for your thoughts and for making time to the conversation. Cynthia Apili Esther from Makerere University, thank you so much for your thoughts and for making time to the conversation. And from the Forum for Democratic Change, legal representative for the Youth League, Adiru, thank you so much for making time for the conversation and for the thoughts you have shared with us. To our technical team, thank you so much for your service and the time you give to make sure this is together, and special thanks to the Center for Constitutional Governance for making sure this is possible, but most importantly, to you, our viewers who keep it, the Youth Roundtable and the wider Civic Space TV, thank you so much for keeping with us, and I will promise to continue making a contribution to the growth and progress of our motherland, Uganda. My name is Philip Mlisa, and may you all have freedom always.